how do you make two different photos match each other? Like visually, like stylistically, so that they look like they belong together. Maybe you have a collection of photos that you want to put on your website, right? And you want it to be sort of a coherent theme, something like that, maybe in your app, whatever. Maybe you have a brand on social media and you want to have like a look. Well, I have these two different photos, and we could think about how we could make them match each other a little bit better. Um, when you when you look at the colors of a photo, you have these three characteristics. You have hue, saturation, and brightness, right? And the hue is kind of the color itself, the rainbow identity color. So I'm changing the one on the left here, right? Um, oh, that's the wrong value. Saturation is how much color is in it. If you take away the saturation, you'll get a black and white image. If you add more saturation, you'll get very deep colors, right? And brightness, is brightness, of course. So, we have these two photos. Could we make the brightness match? Yeah, kind of, right? The one on the left is a little brighter, so I could take that down, try to get them both the same, like average brightness. That doesn't really do a lot for us visually. The level of saturation, we could also change. I think it's more saturated on the left also, so I could take that down, and that just looks worse. It's not how the photo was meant to be viewed anyway, so that's not what we want. Hue is what you can manipulate to make photos look like they match each other better. One thing that I've seen before is something like, can I just do this? Yeah. Something like this where there's now two hues in this image. On the left, it's just pink and this navy blue. And if I do that same operation to the other one, can we do that? Now they look like they're part of a pair, right? And the thing is, it's just kind of reducing them to black and white, and then instead of black and white, it's giving you this navy blue and this light pink, right? So it's taking out a lot of information from the images. It's basically a black and white image. I could go in here and, change the colors to just, oops, to just white and black. And that's what you're getting. And so this is a style, and I've seen this on some websites and things like that. I think WordPress will actually kind of give you this option by default to make an image, what they call two-tone, right? But that's not really what I was after, because we don't want to lose all that color information, right? We don't want to erase all those other colors. If there was a way to just change some of the hues in a photo according to a certain style and do the same for all photos, would that look good? Would that make them look like they go together, and in a more of a subtle way where you still see all the information in the original image? So that's what I'm going to talk about in the next post, how I sort of created a solution here that does something like that. Okay, so we've got our two images. Now watch the operation I'm about to do. Just watch it closely. There, okay, I'm going to go back. This is before, all right, and this is after. And I'll do one more time, before, here, and after, here. So in the after, looking at these two images, I feel like it feels like they are more coherent with each other. And I notice my eye picking out color matches, like this orange in the Christmas ball right here is the same as this orange that's in most of the sunset. And I think I also noticed the white of this Christmas ball decoration is the same as the white in the clouds up here, which is kind of an off-white. It's mixed in with like a peach color. So what did we do here? We replaced the hue at certain parts of both of these images with an input hue, which is actually just right here. It's this color that I just picked myself. And replacing a hue is something you could do in any photo editing software, I'm pretty sure. By default, it's something like this. This is just taking the input or the image, the original image as an input and a color as an input, and it's taking that color's hue and just making it the hue of every pixel all over the image. And that looks a lot like what we looked at last time with the two-tone. You're kind of just taking out all the color and then filling in manually one or two new colors, and which takes out a lot of the information and sometimes even makes it hard to tell what the image is of. So what we wanted to do instead was do this, but only apply the effect in the areas of the image that are like already orange, right? So here's how I did that. This is a node in Blender, and yeah, real quick, I like to use Blender for photo editing. It uses a very different kind of editing style than most other software. We use these blocks, these nodes, which all just have an input and an output, and you split and recombine them and apply effects and all kinds of stuff, but it's all visually done like from left to right basically through these nodes. So this is a custom node I made with an input as the original image and an input for the color that we pick, and the output is, we can look at it again, is the image with that color applied more in certain areas but not in all areas, right? So under the hood, this node is actually like many nodes. It's this whole system that just collapses for the sake of simplicity. I'll get rid of the background because that's pretty distracting. So I'm going to try to explain what I'm doing here. It's very technical, but I'm going to try my best. We take our input image, we take just the hue values, right? So that's like you could imagine taking getting a field of little numbers between 0 and 1. For every pixel, there's a value, and pixels that are more red will have like a value of 0. Pixels that are more green will have a value of like 0.5. 0.1 is also red, because if we look at hue, the nature of it is that it's cyclical. It starts at 0, red. It goes all the way around the color wheel, back to 1, which is also red. And that's going to be important in a second. So anyway, we're getting these numbers between 0 and 1 for the hue. We're also doing that same thing for the input color, which was that orange. So that will just give us maybe a value of like 0.1. Maybe that's the hue of this orange. And that'll just be across the board, 0.1. We're subtracting those from the hue values of the image. So what we're getting after that is like the closeness, well, the distance, right, from one hue to the other. So where the original image is orange is like a hue of 0.1, we're going to get a value of 0 on those pixels. And where it's far away, we're going to get a value of like 0.5 or something like that. Then we multiply those values by 2 pi, and that's because the next thing we're doing is taking the cosine of those values. So let's bring up cosine real quick in case you forgot. Can you see that? Yeah. This is a cosine wave, right? It's a function where if you input 0, it gives you 1. If you input pi, which is halfway down the cycle, you get -1. And if you input 2 pi all the way through the cycle, you're back at 1. All right, so that's what we want because we want to apply the effect strongly where the difference in hue is 0. And we want to apply the effect not at all where the difference is a lot, because that would mean the hues were very different to start with. And it's cyclical, which is good because it means, the way hue is cyclical, if we have negative numbers, they're going to be handled appropriately. So yeah, we get a number that's stronger because we want to apply the effect stronger where the hues are close and strongest when they're closest, and so on. That's the relationship we want. So we take those cosine values, we normalize them because that just means we crunch them between 0 and 1 because we don't want to deal with negative numbers. And let me go back to here. Okay, sorry. We normalize those numbers. We crunch them into a range between 0 and 1 because we don't want to deal with negative numbers when we're talking about the strength of this effect we want to apply. It just takes 0 to 1. So wherever the cosine answer was -1, it becomes 0. Wherever it was 0, it becomes 0.5, and 1 stays 1. The next steps are just if we want to multiply that number by something or add that number to something, which is ways for you to tweak the strength of the effect, like manually, kind of faking it. But if we leave those empty, those were inputs back here. If we leave those blank, the effect is still applied. So then we take that answer, and remember this is a field of values between 0 and 1, where 1 now means it was close in hue to the original hue, and 0 means it was far away in hue, very different hues. And we plug that in as the factor by which we replace the hue of the original image. So this is a hue replacement node, same as I showed you before, but with this factor input, it's only going to do the operation where those numbers are high, right? To whatever degree those numbers are. So I'm going to go back. Where am I? And let's bring back the backdrop. So you can see if I switch back and forth, a lot of the change happens down here where the colors are already orange. It's taking many oranges and making them just this one orange, basically. And you notice the blues are not very affected at all, right? Look at the blue.